outside. So like it's crunching and it's expanding, but it's all in a cycle. Like the ancient Hindu belief, like it's all coming round. The only issue I have is that
Are you saying
it's
that
the
it's eternal?
yeah, sorry, yeah, it's eternal,
Yeah.
but it's eternal. It's an eternal mechanism.
Right, I understand. I understand. So you, I think you've kind of solved your. So can you mute it again because I can hear the echo again.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So I think you've solved your own conundrum. All right. If you say that the universe is eternal but dependent, I don't think that's a contradiction in terms. I don't think that's a contradiction in terms. I think that's consistent. But then the question would still be posed: what is it dependent on? Because if you're saying it's dependent, it's eternal and dependent. It's like saying the following, right? And this is exactly the example that Avicenna uses. He says that look, if you say that the sun rays are dependent, okay, and eternal, let's pretend to believe. Let's pretend, for the sake of argument, to believe in an eternal sun. Okay, the sun is eternal. I know it's just a thought experiment, but if you were to say that the sun rays are eternal, then it must be and dependent. So it's dependent upon the sun, right? So in your understanding, the universe is eternal but dependent. But if the universe is eternal, it still has to be dependent. You see the point? So if it's dependent, you still have this issue of what is it dependent upon. So what is my question? My subsequent question to you would be, this is not a problem. It doesn't affect the argument. My question would be, so in your understanding, what is the universe dependent upon? Is it dependent upon something which is dependent, or is it dependent upon something which is independent?
Yeah. So see, I was thinking it's dependent on itself, just like I said, God is dependent on Himself. So why couldn't
Okay,
there be like an eternal universe which is
yeah.
dependent on itself?
All right, let me answer that. So, sorry, just mute again. Sorry, is it the echo?
Don't have muted him.
So, yeah, well, cool. So, so when you define something which is independent, you're define so independent is something which depends upon itself. So if it's dependent upon itself, it's not dependent, it's actually independent. You see the point? So in your understanding then, is what you're saying, just so I can be very clear, that the universe is independent, or do you want to change your answer to say that the universe is dependent on something which is independent?
Right. So maybe it's based on a misunderstanding of mine, but I get like the universe is contingent. It is definitely contingent. Like empirically, logically, everything it is contingent.
Yeah,
But like, do you get my point when I say God is dependent on Himself? Like God is dependent
yeah,
on His
yeah.
own mind, His own will.
I get what you're saying, but if you say that, sorry, again, if you say if I sorry, if we say something is dependent upon themselves, it's equivalent to saying that something is independent. It's equivalent to saying something is self-sufficient.
Okay, so in
Yeah.
sorry, so in like a cyclical model, so could the universe be independent in that sense? It could be like eternal cyclical model. Where would be the issue? Where would the issue be then?
I think so. Again, uh, once again, so if you say that the universe is eternal, it's different to saying that the universe is independent. Because going back to our example of sun rays and the sun, if we pretend that the universe is in this is contingent but eternal, exactly what you've said, yeah, it's dependent but it's also eternal, then in this analogy it would be like the sun rays. Okay, so in this case it requires the sun in order to be generated, in order to be in the first place. So even if it was eternal, even if you believed that the universe is eternal into the past, because it couldn't be eternal into the future, it would have to be pre-eternal because the future hasn't materialized. If it was pre-eternal, okay, then if that is the case, then it would still be dependent upon something, either dependent or independent. So you see, eternality does not equal necessity. Eternality is a sufficient but not necessary aspect of necessity, but it's not necessity in itself. In other words, in order for something to be necessary, In order for something to be necessary, it has to be eternal. But it's not the case that for something to be eternal, it has to be necessary. So in this case, what I'm saying is, even if you wanted to say that the universe was eternal into the past, which is all you can say, you can't say into the future if you believe time still exists, then I would say to you that what is it dependent, what is it contingent upon? In order, what's generating it? What's keeping it going? What's keeping it going in terms of existence? Is it something outside of itself? And if it is, then once again, is that thing dependent or independent? Do you see what I'm saying here?
No, I get you. So, so obviously you're separating eternality and necessity, right? Okay.
Yes.
So, let's say there's a mechanism outside the universe that is eternal that creates universes. But I know it sounds silly because, like, obviously, if it's like, to me, obviously, I believe because if it doesn't have agency, then how does it create? Which is silly to think a random process can do that. But I'm just like playing devil's advocate here. So what if it's a mechanism which creates universes, which has a range of issues, but let's say it doesn't, for the argument, it creates, that's eternal, that's not dependent on anything, but just our universe is contingent.
So is that so-called mechanism, is it necessary? Is it independent?
It's necessary.
Yeah, okay, I would agree with you. But the word mechanism here, you have to differentiate between mechanism and agency. Okay, mechanism is talking about how a thing is done, whereas agency refers to volition. It refers to the thing that is doing it. Let me give you an example. When you use the term mechanism, if I was an underground, if I was working in the London Underground or an engineer of the London Underground, and someone asked me, how does the London Underground work? I'll tell you, look, the London Underground works in the following way, and I'll, outline the engine mechanism, for example. The mechanism is how something works. Yeah, this is what really mechanism is defined as. How something, whereas agency is, volition. It's something or someone, something or someone acting upon will. Okay, see, these two things are different. It's a category mistake. When you say a mechanism does something, a mechanism cannot do something by definition, because a mechanism is how something is, not what something does or how something does. So a mechanism is what something is. It's the definition of, or it's explaining howness. It's not explaining who-ness or whatness or volition or all of those things. So that mechanism, if you want to detail it as such, must have, if you want to say that, an agency. And if that agency, because mechanism and agency are always differentiated, if that agency is there, then we're practically saying the same thing. We're practically saying there's a necessary agency, which is an independent thing that does. And what that independent thing that does is, in this case, allow other things to be dependent upon it, whilst it itself is not dependent. It itself is not dependent upon anything. And at that stage, we would say you've moved away entirely from atheism, and now you have gone into the deistic or theistic camp, and practically identified with what we would say the basic definition of God is in the Quran.
Okay, bro. Thank you for joining us. I'm just going to let you go for time.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
So it's quite interesting. This went back to what is contingent and contingent, the sort of clarification we tried to make earlier. Alhamdulillah, that was really good.
No, this guy's coming on with somebody else. He says, "I don't see this guy."
I can get him in here in a second. He's just a bit of a boomer. He's older, but he's really good with philosophy. I can get him in whenever there's room in the studio.
All right, you make your point then.
Is that okay if I bring him in?
The thing is, I don't think there's any room in the studio right now. So.
Oh, there's not a way to.
Is that name Jack Angstrike?
Yes, Jack Angstrike. That's him.
All right, 1 second.
Okay, perfect, great. Yeah. So how are you guys doing?
Fantastic.
No problem.
I talked to you once before, Mohammed. I'm not sure if you remember that. It was about whether agnosticism entails a contradiction. That was on SC Dawa.
I can't remember. I'm really sorry. What's your
That's
name?
okay. I mean, you probably talked to like a ton of people. So my name is Isaac. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So what I was curious about is if there is, in fact, and Jack, do you have your mic working over there? It says you're muted, so you might need to unmute yourself. I was wondering if there is, in fact, some reason to think that a contradiction is entailed by agnosticism. Agnosticism being just the position that agnosticism being that one lacks a belief that P is true and lacks a belief that it's false, where P is the proposition God exists.
Can I ask a question? Before you answer, Mohammed, can I just ask a question? So if you know your position, Isaac,
yeah,
that then wouldn't have any bearing on my belief, would it? Because you don't know.
I don't see the relevance, I guess.
Yeah, what I mean is, so for example, as I said earlier, the purpose of what we're doing here is to establish that the belief in a creator or an uncaused cause or a necessary being is not an illogical position to take, and is a reasonable position to take. Yeah. So if you're in an agnostic position where you don't know this way and don't know that way, you personally are not in a position to tell somebody who believes in a necessary being that they're wrong, are you?
Well, wait, but I'm not making a claim that someone's wrong. My question is...
That's what I'm saying to you. That's all, yeah. So you're not in a position to do that. That's fine.
Yeah, so well, wait, whether I'm in a position to do it is a separate question, but it's not what I'm doing. So what I'm curious about is last time when I talked to Mohammed, he took the view that agnosticism is a contradiction. But
I can't remember taking that exact view, to be honest. I can remember that on the SC, obviously I can't remember speaking to you personally, but I can remember that the topic that was on the floor to be discussed in SC DAO was whether atheism was rational. That was the topic. And what I was saying was that rationality is defined in a specific way where, justifications are required, explanations are required. And what I remember saying was that atheism doesn't offer any explanatory or refutational. It doesn't have any explanatory or refutational power. Therefore, to put atheism and rational together is an unjustifiable stance. I think that's where I stand on the matter. I don't know about it being contradiction or...
No, you said about agnosticism being a contradiction.
Right. I
can't remember taking that view.
It is. Well, I did just watch over the video, and you can look it up. I have it titled as.
Forgive me, my brother.
Yeah, sure.
Me. Have you come on the stream to respond to something that Mohammed Hijab said on a different stream on a different topic?
Well, on the topic of atheism.
No, but have you come to no? Have you come to respond to what we said today?
Well, what's the distinction, I guess? Because what I'm curious about, like, you can tell me if this is pertinent, right? What I'm curious about is the last time that I spoke to Mohammed, he took the view, and it's recorded. There's a video. It's duking it out with 4 Muslims. You can just search that on YouTube and you'll find it. It was a respectful conversation. He took the view that agnosticism entails a contradiction. Now, if he's no longer taking that view, if he's basically... No,
I can't remember the discussion. I can't remember the discussion, and that's why it's important to, as Hamza keeps probing, it's important to stick on topic because...
Okay, would it be fair to just ask the question then? Do you still...
Yeah, I mean, it depends on what you're agnostic about. And
I'm agnostic about the proposition that God exists.
I don't think that's inconsistent to be agnostic about the proposition that God exists. But what I do think is that, I don't think it's inconsistent to be agnostic about anything.
Just to be clear, so you do concede that last time when you tried to offer...
I can't remember the conversation last time.
I can't remember. I can screen share it if you want. I mean, let's just say hypothetically.
I don't know. Are you? Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, let's just say hypothetically, and people can confirm it by just looking up the conversation, duking it out with 4 Muslims. Let's say hypothetically that what you were doing in that conversation was taking the position that agnosticism entails a contradiction. If that is what you're doing,
entails
you now state very clearly.
No.
Can I finish my question?
Entails a contradiction is different from is contradictory, right? So which one is it that you're saying?
We can go with entails. That's broader. That if it itself is a contradiction, or if a contradiction.
No. Well, what I do think is that if you are an atheist, okay, if you don't have a necessary being, pinning foundationally, right, what you believe in, then you will not be able to explain your rational faculties. You will not be able to
change of topic, though. I'm
So
asking
no,
a specific question, right?
So
So
what's
what
the
I'm
topic? It tells,
right,
no,
right.
it
What
tells
I'm
the topic. I'll
asking
tell you
is,
sorry,
given
let me just yeah. So do you mind if I just respond?
if I could get the question out.
Just
Yeah, go
respond,
ahead.
Mohammed.
Go ahead.
Oh.
Can I just say this again?
Yeah, well, can I answer him? Because if
Isaac,
you want to respond, that's fine. But
Isaac, just a second. I'm just muting you a second. Please don't unmute yourself. Right. I'm going to repeat myself because I think you misunderstood what I said earlier. This stream is demonstrating why we believe we have evidence to support the existence of a necessary being. All right. Atheists are invited to come on to challenge our reasons for that. You're an agnostic. You don't have a dog in the fight, mate.
is it okay to unmute, or do you want to still say more?
You don't have a dog in the fight, mate.
Okay. Well, I mean, look, I'm happy to have a conversation also about the topic of whether there's a good argument to think God exists. But
no. That's the only conversation we want to have.
Okay. Well, okay. Well, I mean, I'll try asking one more time. If you won't answer, that's fine. But the only thing for that conversation,
Isaac, sorry, you just, I don't know why you're just ignoring me. I'm not listening for the good of my health. Listen, atheists, you're not here to come and have your own little agendas and build your little channels and promote your little channels and try to regurgitate old conversations, right? We've done a talk deliberately labeled evidence for God. And we've explained what we mean by evidence, and we've explained what we mean by God. And we've demonstrated how it's reasonable, logical, and rational to believe we have evidence for the existence of a necessary being. Your job is to come on to say it's irrational, it's illogical. If you come on as an agnostic, you don't know nothing. You're not making a claim, you're not asserting anything. There's no need for you to come on. This is for atheists to challenge what's been said. That's what I'm going to say. Go on, Imran, sorry. I don't know if I'm being too hard, but...
No, it was interesting.
That's the bottom line, because Stone Cold said so.
No, but come on.
He referred to respectful conversation, but he's labelled it as something that was adversarial. It's quite interesting that was how he was going, and to hold Mohammed to a discussion that he can't remember from a while ago, as if that was some sort of, I don't know. It's strange. Just address the topics that have been raised. I think that's the best thing to do. Jack,
Jack is an atheist.
That'd be great.
Jack. All right. Heisenberg, welcome.
Hi guys, you all right?
Yeah. You're an atheist?
No, I'm not an atheist, Hamza.
Okay.
Mohammed, that was a really good explanation of contingency. Can I just see if I've got it correctly, right? So you're saying everything in the universe is dependent on something, right? And if you trace that back, there has to be something necessary that's God. Is that right? Is that your...
No, that's wrong. Sorry to cut you off. And
no, please clarify it.
Right. So my argument was not that on the basis of things in the universe being contingent, therefore there must be that on the basis of things in the universe being contingent, therefore the universe contingent, and therefore there must be God. That's not the argument. Would you like me to repeat what the argument is?
I'm sorry, my friend. Yeah, please do. I think I misunderstood it.
All right. So just to kind of abbreviate it in the most concise possible way right now.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that it's impossible for there to be, right? I'm making the claim that it's impossible for there to be an infinite regress of dependent things.
Agreed,
where dependent is defined as something which relies upon something else to exist. And in order for such infinite regress of dependent things to be broken, there must be an independent thing.
Agree.
Okay.
Thank you.
So my question, I suppose, then is that independent thing? So we're calling that independent thing Allah, right?
No. At this point in time, we're just calling it as it is, the independent thing.
Okay. So is that independent thing Is the universe dependent on that independent thing? Yes, right?
I would say that if you, the universe itself is not the independent thing. Okay.
No, it's
because-
not the independent thing. It's
Right,
dependent on the independent thing.
Yeah.
So would you? So is there? I suppose what I'm trying to say is that independent thing? You can't then say it's separate to the dependent thing. Where I would like to know where the separation comes from.
In what sense do you intend the word separation?
So Hamza, I don't know if you remember, I was had this chat with you last time with Shabur, and you guys told me to come on when Mohammed was on because he'd be the perfect person to explain this. And I remember I said that there are these two schools of thought that I understand. One is what Sabur said is the kind of mainstream Sunni theology of the independent thing being Allah and a separate creation. And then I said that there's a second school of thought that I relate to. It seems more intuitive to me, that of kind of the concept of oneness and the school of thought of, say, Ibn Arabi or some of the other mystics or Sufis, right? And that school of thought is that the independent thing is the entirety of reality. That is the only thing there is. And from that comes all the other dependent things. And remember, I was saying to you guys about this, I was struggling with this separation of the independent thing and the thing that independent thing then creates.
So, I guess I would say to you that in theology, really, especially in Islamic theology, when we're speaking about God, there's usually two things that we talk about. So we talk about the essence of God and we talk about the attributes of God. Okay. In Arabic, that was sifat. The attributes, as the that is the essence, and the attributes sifat. Yeah. The point is this: is that where we're talking about interconnectedness, if you like, we can talk about the attributes. So, for example, we don't separate God's seeing capability from any part of His creation. We don't, as Muslims, but we believe God is all seeing, all hearing, and that is for every place and every crevice of the universe. And as for example, God's knowing, He knows everything and everywhere. So we don't separate the attributes of God. This is the classical position, right? We don't separate the attributes of God from the entirety of the creation. So those particular attributes, in particular, I've just given you some examples, right? So, however, that or the essence of God, we say is necessarily separated from the creation. Otherwise, there would be a contradiction. And I think you can argue on logical grounds that if God was everywhere with His essence, then that would necessitate that God is within those areas which are dependent. And so that the problem is that the crossover there is that if God
but Mohammed, I'm not saying He is in those places. He's in those places. I'm saying He is it. He's not in it. He is it. There's a subtle difference there.
So basically, you're saying He's a bicycle.
Say that again, Hamza.
So you're using the kind of idea that a bicycle or a camera, that's God.
The thing is, when you say a bicycle or a camera, to us that seems like a very specific individual object. But if you delve deep into it, where is the separation between the electron in the camera and in the electron in the space next to the camera?
I understand. But then I'd go back to sorry, Hamza, go on.
No, I'm just saying. So you believe God is a camera or a fridge or something? Yeah.
No, but Hamza, but why would God be the camera? Because what I'm saying is that the camera is, to us, it seems like an individual one object that's in the universe. But what I'm saying is that if you trace all the camera is dependent on that, that's dependent on that, that's dependent on that. You go back all the way down to the independent thing, which is the fabric, the very pure, infinite potential fabric, which is the essence of what God is. What's hard to understand about that?
I think the problem here is if we say that God's essence is us. Okay, it's not everywhere, but it is us. In fact, it is the camera. It is those things. Then arguments that I've already made about the part and the whole would now apply. So, for example, if we say that anything
What was
that
the
is
name, Mohammed? What was the name you gave that? Just for my own interest, you labeled that the fallacy of starts with C. Composition. Yeah, thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry to interrupt.
No, this is not necessarily in reference to the fallacy of composition. This is more in reference to the point I was making, which is a syllogism that Al-Farabi made. He in fact was a person. He wasn't a monist in that sense, because what you're describing is something called monism, right? That God is
say that again. Modism.
Monism.
Monism. Okay.
Yeah.
I've not heard of that.
Okay, so the problem is that if you're saying the essence of God, we are the essence of God, and the chimp and the elephant and the tree and all
but
that.
Mo, you have to be careful, because I didn't say we. When you say we, you have to determine what we is, because like you said in the beginning, like Descartes did, you can't even say we. Like nothing. So when you say we, you have to be careful. Are you saying what the ego?
Let's be more careful. Let's be more. It's to say, for example, that the essence of God is symbol. What would you say? How would you say? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
It's a real mind. It's a real paradoxical, mystical thing. Because I don't think fundamentally. I don't think I am my ego. I think my ego is a construct. It's illusionary.
I understand. Okay, but before we get to that, my question is: does the essence of God inhere, right, in anything?
Say that again. Sorry. Does the essence of God do what? Sorry.
Inhere.
Inhere. What do you mean by that? In the creation.
Yeah. But
doesn't the Quran say that it's closer to you than your jugular vein? I don't see how you can say that's just his knowledge and it's separate from him.
I'm not saying that. No. What I'm not bringing textual arguments, because that's an entirely different animal, if you like. It's a completely different kettle. Just sticking with the logical argument. Is because first of all, do you agree that if we accept on the premise that God is basically attributes in essence and attribute, yeah? So attributes is descriptions of what God is, or what God is. So for example, we've already determined he's independent, he's necessary, and if you want to add the attributes that traditionally we as Muslims believe in, those things like merciful and so on. So these are textual things, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't want to add them, you can still have logical principles from first principles attributes, deduced attributes like will and power and so on. Yeah.
Yeah.
But now the question is, do you separate the essence from the attributes, or do you think that they're all one thing?
I need to think about that. Intuitively, I would want to say that they're all one thing. Why would you? Why would a human intellect start separating out these different attributes of what is the only thing that's true, the fundamental truth?
So what is the attributes a description of?
The fundamental truth.
All right. So for example, there's a fundamental truth which is being described, right?
Yeah.
And so the attributes are a reflection of what is being described.
Yeah.
So there are two categories: there's essence and there's attributes. From that angle,
I would say that the attributes are how our limited minds understand what is the truth. Yeah.
Okay.
But I wouldn't say the attribute is the truth. It's how we understand it and relate to it.
Right. So it's a description of, right?
Of the truth. Yeah.
Okay. Fine. I don't disagree with that. So there are descriptions, right? Now what I'm saying to you is this: is that if we say that, if we take the monist view, that God is everything, right? God is everything, or God is everything.
I would say he is everything. That is to us what everything is, but he transcends that as well. Because like my understanding of when he says God is above his throne, my understanding of that is he is everything that's below his throne and above it. He transcends as well. He's not just. I'm not giving you pantheism here. I'm not saying God is just everything and that's it. He's everything and beyond everything. He transcends everything as well.
But the problem here is this: if he is the universe, if God is the universe, right? then the syllogism that I put forward before would apply. So the syllogism is that anything that is made out of parts is generated, right? And those things which we're describing as God is. So if we say God is the universe, God is me, God is all of those things, right? God is everything that exists. Then those things would fall under the category of things that God is. So then you'd face a contradiction, a logical contradiction. The logical contradiction would be that therefore God is generated, because if he is those things, if he is the universe, if he is a monkey, if he is the cow, if he is all those things, then if he is those things are they're contingent. So that would lead you to a contradiction that God would have to be contingent and necessary at the same time.
All right,
Can I
guys,
just
I've
say
taken up a
something,
lot of your
Heisenberg?
time. Thank you very much, guys.
Oh.
Cheers. Thanks, Mo. Thank you, guys.
Can I just
Nice.
leave you one thing, Heisenberg, before you leave?
Yeah, go for it.
Oh, okay. So basically, what we've established today is the fact that a necessary being exists, and we've provided reasons for it. You agree with that?
100%. Yeah, of course. Yeah, yeah. To say that there is no necessary being, you might as well say you don't exist. It's stupid.
That's fantastic. Right. The difference is coming now is in perceptions of this necessary being. Yeah.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
Right. So where do you get your information about this necessary being from?
Where do I get my information from this? Oh, that's a good question. Where I mean, I would say the only place you can get it is from your intelligence, from your common sense, from your.
So from your
that's the only place you can get it.
From your subjective opinion, you've derived this perception, yeah?
Yeah.
And although this is going to open another can of worms, we're not going to open it. Our perception of the Creator is from what is revealed about Himself. And
but but it's your intelligence that interprets that.
No, but what I'm saying to you is this: we believe the necessary being has revealed His nature, and it's not what you're saying it is.
Yes, but that's your intelligence using your interpretation of what He's revealed.
No, it's me using the revelation and my intelligence. You're right, against your subjective opinion.
Yes, but your interpretation of the revelation revelation is your subjective.
The can of worms are not going to open. I'm glad you agreed.
I didn't want to open any can of worms.
Yeah?
Sorry?
I'm glad you agreed in the fact of
100%, yes. 100%.
Heisenberg.
Thank you, gentlemen. Have a good night. See you. Bye.
Thank you. See you later, man.
All right. Do you want to say something, Imran? I know.
No, not really. I'd like to get an atheist on who's actually going to ask something about or talk about the discussion.
I'm trying. Okay, let's see what this Lamino is all about. Before Lamino, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes. First question: are you an atheist?
No, but I have like some problems with the contingency argument that I found it incompatible with Allah.
What do you believe?
I'm a Muslim.
Okay. So the moment, we'll say goodbye. Okay. We're looking for atheists.
That was harsh, man.
No, but we're looking for atheists. We're not looking for Muslims right now. You'll get a chance. Spiritual atheist. He sounds like an atheist. Spiritual atheist, welcome. Spiritual atheist.
Oh, your voice is breaking. Can you guys hear me?
Sorry about that. But it's for atheists. I feel a bit sad for him, man.
Okay, there's someone called John. His device is not connected. Okay. This is the thing, you see. We did a stream specific, though. I know it seems harsh, but these streams can drag.
No, but I like the way you do control it, and that's good. That's what people love about you, and you've got to keep it in.
Look, I let him go a little bit because he was arguing about the idea that the dependency and the independent and that kind of thing. So I just wanted to know where he's making the join.
Who, Lamino?
No, not Lamino. He's a Muslim, and he wants to challenge what you said.
Yeah.
What's the point right now? I want an atheist, but I don't think there is any. So I think I might just let Muslims on now. Go on, Lamino. Philly boots. Tell Mohammad Hijab why he's wrong.